Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
You're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the World Wrestling Federation developed a little bit of an attitude. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
She has been slopped.
Joe Giammatteo.
On that note, I want to say, anyone who wants to see Vince McMahon in his finest hour on commentary, watch the July 1st, 1996 episode of Monday Night Raw.
It's gold.
I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history, one episode of Raw at a time. In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on July 1st, 1996. This Raw was recorded at the Brown County Expo in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and features Vince McMahon and Jerry the King Lawler on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone, to Monday Night Raw. Here he comes, the greatest sports entertainer in the world today, the charismatic, the resilient, the never-ending WWF champion, Shawn Michaels. He is who we get right out the gate here, and yes, he's there with the click cam, taking video footage of the crowd, and with the ever-present dead weight of Jose Lothario trailing behind him. And what is Jim Cornette doing at ringside? There's trouble in River City here on Raw. We get a double shot of it tonight.
He has no business being at ringside.
This is actually a great question here, what they're bringing up. Why Jim Cornette is at ringside. It makes you just kind of stop and pause and scratch your chin a little bit. Shawn Michaels is going to be here facing Marty Jannetty of the New Rockers, and eventually, after the lengthy Heartbreak Kid entrance, it's almost seeming like Jim Cornette might be managing the New Rockers. Or at least some strong hints are being dropped to that direction. Hopefully we'll get more details on that as the show goes on. Or not. But after quite a bit of fanfare for the Heartbreak Kid, we'll go into our first match of the night. Shawn Michaels, with Jose Lothario, defeats Marty Jannetty with Leif Cassidy and Jim Cornette by pinfall in 14 minutes and 59 seconds. It was really hard to hear the bell to start this exhibition match, and that's the feeling I got from it straight away. The stuff about the history between Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels is convenient, and probably even relevant, but not needed at all. This is an exhibition match. Shawn and Marty start this off toe-to-toe and nose-to-nose, doing some talking. And even though Marty is only 5 years older than Shawn Michaels, it looks like a lot more than that when they're standing there like this and giving us a literal side-by-side comparison. I do have to wonder what their relationship was like at this point. I'm not sure I've ever really heard that addressed, if they were still cool or just professionals or what the deal is between them. The tie-ups look decent enough to start, but it is slow going. What's more interesting at this point was the split screen. We got a graphic showing us the main event for the evening, Goldust versus the mild man, Mark Marrow. And in this picture of 4 people, Goldust, Marlena, and Sable are looking at us, the viewer, while the mild man is giving a dramatic side look at Sable. He's even being cucked in the side screen graphics, folks. When our competitors have a quick series of reversals and then do a simultaneous nip-up to stare at each other, why did Earl Hebner get between them? Didn't seem to fit.
You don't want a wrestling match to break out.
Yeah, we got to keep these guys apart. I loved Vince McMahon saying that Shawn Michaels has obviously done more with his life than Marty has. After the second series of reversals that were a little slower than the first, I started to get concerned at how much of a story we would be able to tell here. And that's more or less how this match went for the first 5 minutes. It really felt like these guys were telegraphing almost everything, teeing things up for each other. Shawn does a baseball slide into Leif Cassidy by the announcer's table, and Marty follows up with a double axe handle on Shawn from the apron, and it didn't look like Shawn was expecting that because he went down in a way that didn't look good at all. He might just be that good at selling, but I would not be willing to give Marty the benefit of the doubt here. Good thing Jose Lothario was there, though, to protect Michaels from Leif Cassidy. I started to tune out a little bit here when we went to a commercial break because this match dipped down to a slow pace that I honestly did not expect from these two, and all joking aside, I thought Shawn and Marty would be able to have a good match. Things stayed this way throughout the rest of the match, too. I was expecting a spot fest, but this was just stutter steps and offbeat timing. And then we got to the miscommunication in the corner. Jannetty whipped Michaels to the corner. Michaels caught himself and hopped his feet up to the second rope like it was going to be a springboard. Jannetty just stood there staring for a minute, then dropped like he was trying to get under rope work. Then Michaels climbed up the ropes while Marty repositioned himself to standing. It was just ugly and awkward. Michaels didn't get a lot of help with the pile driver. No wonder he has back problems. Marty was not willing to, or maybe not able, to help him out at all with that by the looks of things. When we finally got to the sweet chin music that Vince had been calling for almost the entire fucking match, it was a relief to get the pin and the 3 count. But that's not the end. Leif Cassidy got in the ring and went after Michaels. And this was just as bad, with Cassidy acting like a fucking idiot like he is wont to do. Something that was a little entertaining was Jose Lothario punching Jim Cornette and putting him out of the ring. I was mildly impressed by that, I guess. And as Shawn sticks around to pose, I was left slightly shocked. I'm not sure where you guys fell on this one. I wasn't expecting a wrestling clinic or anything, but I sure as hell wasn't expecting the match that we got. Joe, please, what did you think of our show opener?
Well, I'm kind of surprised you didn't enjoy this. I thought it was good. I thought that the beginning was almost like a sporting event feel. It's almost like they were trying to figure each other out. They were trying to figure out each other's playbook. And I kind of liked it at the beginning. I liked most of the match. I mean, the only stuff I didn't care for was like Jose Lothario outside the ring as Leif is stomping on Marty. Jose is just fucking standing there. I didn't like that, but the match itself I thought was pretty good. I mean, Shawn Michaels, I thought, gave us a Shawn Michaels match. I thought it was pretty entertaining, and the crowd was engaged the entire match for the most part. Vince McMahon is just, he's in just perfect form here. Just
rare form tonight.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he was calling for the sweet chin music at least 8 times during this. Just, here we go. Go ahead. Give him the sweet chin music.
I feel like he was trying to compete with JR from King of the Ring. And
maybe,
he just can't. He doesn't have, I don't know, the wit or the quick vocabulary recall that JR does. But
the story, I'm probably going to repeat myself a few times during this episode. I loved Vince McMahon on this episode, and I hated Jerry Lawler. I thought Jerry Lawler was annoying as hell, but we'll talk about that a little bit more. But yeah, for this match, I thought it was pretty good. I would have liked to have seen at least 6 more super kicks to Leif Cassidy's head, but I'll take 1, I guess.
I think I'm going to probably end up falling a little bit closer to Joe on this match. I liked how it started out, mainly because we gave Marty the full jobber treatment. This episode started out, he was already in the ring. We don't hear his music. He's just waiting for Shawn Michaels like a jobber. So that was nice to see. And Vince did inform us that this day, which July 1st, is Canada Day, and they were celebrating their 129th year of freedom or whatever, but Canada 129 years old back in 1996. I thought the match took its time a little bit at the beginning. They certainly took their time before they started going at each other. And then once they did, I think the first few minutes it looked like maybe they were still feeling each other out and getting used to wrestling with each other, because there were a couple spots at the beginning that didn't maybe look smooth. But I thought after the first few tie-ups, though, things vastly improved. And I also enjoyed Vince saying that Shawn Michaels has a bit more brain power than Marty. I mean, that's quite a dig at Marty there. The King even brings it up, like, are you saying he's stupid? And Vince is like, no, and yes, you are. I mean, you just said he lacks brain power. But, once these two guys got comfortable with each other, I did think the match really took a upward swing. And towards the end, we get some things that were surely choreographed, but I thought looked pretty good. Michaels goes for a monkey flip, and Marty ends up landing on his feet, and then he immediately connects Michaels with a hard-looking clothesline. I thought that was a pretty good spot. And then a few minutes later, Michaels goes for a power bomb, and Marty reverses the end of it into a pinning combination that then Michaels double reverses for a near fall. I mean, this stuff was choreographed, like I said, but I thought the timing was on and that it looked pretty decent. And the finish to this match I thought was good too. Michaels calling for this sweet chin music. Man, was the crowd behind him. I don't know if I've seen someone this over in quite some time. I mean, the crowd was stomping their feet to him, getting ready for this sweet chin music. So you really can't ask for your champ to be more loved by the people than he is right now. Plus, nobody broke a neck, so double win here.
Man, I wasn't aware that I would be attending a meeting of the Marty Jannetty fan club tonight. Wow. I don't know what to say. I'm nonplussed, like Vince was talking to Pillman last week. You bunch of fucking loose cannons showing this appreciation for Marty Jannetty.
Where's the money?
Well, he did lose the match.
He did.
And got his head kicked off.
I don't know why I was so harsh on this match. I mean, it wasn't terrible by any means. It just, I don't know. Like I said, I wasn't expecting what I got. But speaking of not expecting things, this past weekend on Superstars, let's talk about that. Jim Ross was in the ring doing an interview with Sonny and Phineas Godwin. Sonny was apologizing to Phineas here, trying to get him to talk about his feelings for her, and he said he loved her, which, by the way, elicited zero crowd response. But of course, this was a ruse from Sonny for some reason, I guess to get heat, but Sonny was really just annoying here more than anything and kind of being a bitch. Nobody gave any kind of a shit about this there in the arena by the sounds of things. Jim Ross saying, "What's going on?" after Sonny slapped Phineas was the only believable thing going on here in this situation. And of course, after verbally berating Phineas, the Smoking Guns got in to beat him up because sure, why not? Obviously, Henry Godwin and Hillbilly Jim came in for the rescue, and Sonny was left in the ring with the Godwin family. And this was the height of drama and allegory, if the allegory you're looking for is bukkake. And whether or not Phineas would slop Sonny, and he couldn't do it. But then, yeah, big chunks and all, down into her stringy hair, Sonny has been slopped. And then the replay. Look at the big chunks again. Look at it again.
And the replay again.
And the replay. Look at it from this angle. And that's the bulk of the takeaway from this segment. It is time to move past this in our viewing, but first, Joe, please, what did you have on this Superstars footage, and what's going on in the Sonny division here?
Well, it started out incredibly stupid with them just talking to each other in the ring, but then it got great. The one replay I'd love to see is the hair flip. She does the hair flip.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that on replay. But Vince McMahon, it almost sounded like someone doing a Vince impression. Like it was just so over the top. This was easily my favorite Vince McMahon commentary moment since we started this podcast. I mean, it's unreal. And then I thought about the stories you hear about the guys who like put some nasty shit in that bucket. And I was like, how terrible. But yeah, Vince McMahon was the highlight here for sure. And the hair flip.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Vince McMahon really helped make this segment here. And yeah, Joe, I've certainly heard about this infamous slopping and how everyone backstage just couldn't wait to help contribute to this slop bucket. And that's all I could think of every time they showed it, just thinking how many loogies and snot rockets and whatever fucking else was in that bucket. Fucking disgusting.
Yeah, I'm going to put out a formal request to our Instagram friend Henry Godwin on this one. We get some occasional interaction with Henry Godwin there on Instagram. He likes some of our posts sometimes, and I've talked to him in comments once or twice. And just, Henry, if you're listening, do you remember this night? And do you remember what was really in that bucket? Big chunks and all, down into her stringy hair. She got slop.
And then.
Oh, man. Well, I hate to be a downer, but there's a funky song playing to the backbeat of a backup beeper in the background after this, which will take us into our next match. Mankind defeats Duke the Dumpster Drossie by submission in 4 minutes and 18 seconds. And here we are, folks. Duke the Dumpster Drossie is our jobber of the week, finally. Thank you, Ryan. Take it.
Thank you, Jason. Yes, that is right. It was about time for the garbage man to be our jobber of the week. It's taken quite some time for him to get here, but since this is his last time that we are going to see him on WWF television for quite some time, I felt it only appropriate. Duke the Dumpster Drossie was born Michael David Drossie on August 20th, 1969 in Lodi, California. He was trained by Bobby Wells and made his debut in February of 1990 in Miami, Florida, defeating Johnny Blade. Duke has used the ring names Marshall Duke, Rocco Gibraltar, the Garbage Man, and Duke the Dumpster Drossie. Drossie worked the Florida independent circuit throughout the early 90s, briefly using the name Rocco Gibraltar before settling on the Garbage Man. In 1993, Duke caught the eye of the WWF after Pro Wrestling Illustrated listed him in their top 500 wrestlers in the world, where he was listed as number 500. The fans began mockingly chanting 500 as he made his way down to the ring when he first joined the WWF. In 1994, Drossie signed full-time with the WWF, and still using his Garbage Man gimmick, now going by the name Duke the Dumpster Drossie, he debuted on Monday Night Raw, defeating Barry Horowitz on May 23rd, 1994. Duke's biggest push with the WWF came in the summer of 94 when he feuded with Jerry the King Lawler. During this feud, Duke was struck by the King with the Duke's own garbage can that he brought down to the ring. Lawler was forced to give a legitimate on-air apology for this hit by the USA Network because they believed it was not family-friendly content. After this feud with the King fizzled out, the Dumpster, with few in-ring skills to rely upon, circled the drain of the WWF for the next couple years. Every once in a while popping back up with a slightly different attitude and attire, but ultimately the same dumpster fire of a wrestler. In 96, Duke did get to compete in the Royal Rumble that year. However, he was eliminated by Diesel and Kama, despite entering the Rumble as the final 30th entry. His final televised WWF match aired on July 13th, 1996 edition of Superstars, losing to newcomer T.L. Hopper in true jobber fashion.
Good Lord.
In 1997, Drossie appeared with the German-based Catch Wrestling Association, where he won the vacant CWA World Heavyweight Championship, holding it for over a year. In the late 90s, Drossie began wrestling for Florida Championship Wrestling, and in 2000 won the FCW Heavyweight Championship belt. And in 2001, Drossie returned to the WWF for a single night on April 1st, 2001 at WrestleMania 17, reprising the Duke the Dumpster Drossie gimmick in a gimmick battle royale. He was eliminated by Donk the Clown. After the 2001 gimmick battle royale, Duke retired from wrestling and moved to McMinnville, Tennessee, where he began working as a special education teacher as well as the school's strength coach. Though not a terribly long wrestling career, his record is 192 wins, 118 losses, and 4 draws. So I guess technically not a jobber by the numbers, but anyone that has watched him during his time with the WWF knows he is truly a jobber at heart.
Very well done, Ryan. Very well done.
Glad you worked in some comedy there, because I was really trying not to shed a tear knowing that this is the last time that we're going to see him.
Yeah.
Yes, very sad. Very sad.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of sentimentality here, I'll just throw it out there. During the gimmick battle royale, I remember watching that live. Pretty sure it was over at your house, Ryan.
Yep.
I popped for the dumpster. I did.
Were you chanting 500?
I hate to have to follow that with this match, or at least some of what I have in it, but I tried to keep it a little bit interesting here. We've got a little something coming up. Back in the ring, Jake Roberts is going to be joining commentary for this match. We find out that for some goddamn reason, Jake the Snake will be taking on Mankind at the upcoming International Incident pay-per-view. Guys, did we have any foreshadowing of that at all? Am I maybe not remembering something?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, news to me.
I didn't think we had a reason to be doing that, but whatever. I loved that Hawaiian shirt Jake was wearing. That's the kind of shit that I wear to work every day. And while we were doing entrances coming into this match, there was a video package showing footage from the house show circuit. And wouldn't you know it, the night before this Raw aired, the WWF was at the Igloo in Pittsburgh. And since it is entirely possible that we could have attended that show, I think I'd like to go down the match card for June 30th, 1996 with you guys and see what you think about the matches we could have seen live.
All right.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so starting off with the opener, our evening at the Igloo would have kicked off with the Bushwhackers defeating the New Rockers in 9 minutes and 16 seconds.
Oh, that's a rough one there.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll start off. That's fantastic. I am so happy that the Bushwhackers beat the fucking New Rockers. Wow. Take that, Marty.
Yeah. Yeah, if you announced that in 1988, that's fantastic. But
yeah.
96, not so much.
I just thought it was funny that all of a sudden the Bushwhackers just keep popping up now again.
They're everywhere.
They had a few months off, and now they're just creeping on us again. Next up, Savio Vega defeats Justin Hawk Bradshaw in 7 minutes and 53 seconds.
Not bad, although it's disappointing we wouldn't get to see someone get branded if Savio won.
Little surprised that Savio would win that, since it seemed like they were trying to push Bradshaw here for a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think that probably sounds like it would be a entertaining match.
Yeah, I have faith in the people in it, so I don't see where that could really go wrong. Next up, though, this one shocked me. Psycho Sid defeats Owen Hart in 41 seconds.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess he must be working his way back, because didn't Sid have an injury or baseball season that he had to get through?
I mean, I just assumed it was softball season.
Yeah. I do have some news on Sid later.
Okay, well, here we go.
Okay.
Kind of sad to see he defeated Owen in such a squash match, though.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Again, it just like kind of buries Owen. I don't know. We're just not seeing good use of Owen Hart.
Yeah. Next, an Intercontinental title match. Ahmed Johnson defeated Goldust by countout in 7 minutes and 6 seconds.
Sounds like some shenanigans.
Yeah, kind of sounds like what we've been used to seeing out of Goldust, where he chicken shit held it for a little bit and got counted out.
Yeah. Next up was a WWF Championship match. Shawn Michaels defeats Vader by disqualification in 7 minutes and 6 seconds.
Yeah, a preview of SummerSlam.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was fine.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought when I heard it. It just seems like, knowing the future, that this is just them getting warmed up for that.
Yeah. Next was a WWF Tag Team title match. The Smoking Guns defeated the Godwins in 12 minutes and 46 seconds.
Probably a solid match. Both teams involved are good wrestlers as long as they kept the antics to a minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure the Godwins were over in a blue-collar town like Pittsburgh.
I tend to agree that the only thing that could have potentially gotten in the way of that being a good match is the story. Next up, Mark Marrow with Sable defeated Hunter Hearst Helmsley in 10 minutes and 55 seconds.
I'm sure Sable got the biggest pop there out of those three.
Yeah, I wasn't real sure what to expect out of that, especially with Mark Marrow. He could kind of be hit or miss here.
Plenty of practice with Hunter Hearst Helmsley, though.
Yeah, so hopefully that meant for a good match.
Next up, the British Bulldog defeated Yokozuna in 10 minutes and 10 seconds.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, I mean, did Yoko survive? Because that sounds like a train wreck.
Yeah.
Him in the ring for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, the latest we've seen of him is easily the worst that we've seen of him, and even the Bulldog hasn't really been having great matches.
And finally, gentlemen, our headliner, Undertaker with Paul Bearer defeated Mankind in 14 minutes and 17 seconds.
I'm sure that was a enormous crowd-pleasing match.
Yes.
I couldn't imagine it being bad with these two, and I'm sure that everyone in the Igloo got to see everything they wanted to see in that match.
Yeah, Mick Foley and the Igloo are very special. It's a very special relationship.
Yes.
I'm sure that was a good one.
And there we have it, gentlemen. That's a show that we could have seen the night before watching this episode of Raw. So back in the ring, the Dumpster starts off with trying to punch Mankind, which just wasn't a good choice. The commentary from Jerry Lawler blistering Jake the Snake's addiction problems was hilarious here. It was almost distracting.
Relentless.
Which wasn't hard to do, considering Duke was outclassed by Mankind in every way possible. I popped my ass off when the King said, "I'm surprised they let you wrestle, Jake. When you sweat, you're a fire hazard." The spinebuster from Duke onto Mankind was surprisingly good looking. And I hate that part of Duke's ring gear is the kind of back brace they used to make us wear working at Big Lots in the 1990s. Ugh, bad memories there. When we got to the mandible claw to draw the submission, it was like a side note. I had been so focused on listening to commentary that I didn't even notice the setup for it. But considering what the rest of the match looked like, that wasn't surprising. I continue to enjoy the way the soothing music pulls Mankind out of his submission trance. But the real story continued on the outside when, during some verbal jousting, the King asks if Jake the Snake is able to turn the other cheek and then slaps the fucking headset clean off of Jake Roberts. The King goes into Jake for a second slap, and after that Jake starts strangling Lawler over Vince McMahon, who looks appropriately disheveled during the experience. But then this draws Mankind to come down and apply the mandible claw to Jake Roberts. I'm still not entirely sure what these two have to do with each other, but here we are. The King gets a boot in on Jake's face while Mankind has the fingers down the gullet. And we end up with officials breaking it up and the show goes on. But first, before we go on, Ryan, please, what did you think of this match and the aftermath?
The Dumpster being outclassed is a perfect way to put it. in every fashion, both in his gimmick and his wrestling skill. Is this the third repackaging of Duke? I feel like his hair was even shorter and he lost the stupid stocking hat thing that he was coming down with. It could just be that they're taking stuff away from him since they're kicking him out the door at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know. But the match started and Mankind is pretty much just manhandling Duke, and we hear the King just one rip after another about Jake's alcohol issues. I thought the best thing about this match, because, sadly, when you're in there with the Duke, we've highlighted this many times. I don't care what wrestler you are, you're not going to have a very great match. It's not going to be anything anyone's excited to see, and it's going to be pretty boring. But I thought the one thing that stuck out to me was they were really show-lighting Mankind's resilience here. Bartlett, you pointed out when Duke landed that pretty good-looking spine buster. But after he did, Mankind was to his feet before the dumpster was. Yeah. It was like the spine buster didn't phase him. So the Duke immediately tries to go for a sleeper hold, like, oh, well, maybe I'll choke this guy out. And immediately Mankind's just backing him into the turnbuckles to get him off of them. And it just seems like there's nothing that can keep this deranged individual down. And when Mankind went for the mandible claw, it was right in the middle of Duke, picked him up in the air and was like getting ready to slam him, and Mankind just digs the mandible claw in, and then Duke crumbles to the ground like a jobber. So the match itself, it's going to be pretty forgettable, mostly because of Dumpster, but I do think Mankind is still doing a great job of establishing his character, regardless of who he's in the ring with. The stuff after the match where, again, we get to see him give the mandible claw to another piece of crap like Jake the Snake. I'm disappointed that we have to even talk about building up any type of a feud between them before they have their match, but I guess this is about the best we could expect out of a Duke the Dumpster match.
I was actually very distracted by Lawler's drunk jokes. I thought that it was funny at first, but then it just kept going and going and going. What's really frustrating to me is it's disappointing that in our time of being WWF wrestling fans, you could count on one hand the characters that were actually like terrifying. You could name guys like Undertaker, Mankind. Jake Roberts was one of those guys, like back in the late 80s, early 90s. And now that he's getting just roasted for having a drinking problem by Jerry Lawler and not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
That was just disappointing to think about. So it's ironic that that he has this little thing with Mankind later, because Mankind is one of those guys that's a little terrifying, But the match was there wasn't really anything for me to highlight from the match itself. But the application of the mandible claw in this match was easily my favorite so far, with the way Duke had him lifted up and then he just snuck it down the gullet. And hearing Vince say that once again, down the gullet, was also a highlight for me.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. Farewell, Duke. Call into the Superstar line if you'd like to spend $1.49 a minute to find out all the shocking details of why the Ultimate Warrior is in the WWF doghouse. And if Vince McMahon were a smart cookie, he would charge people $1.49 a minute to read them that agreement that he must have with the Ultimate Warrior that allowed him to pitch the comic book and the gym and all the other shit. That's why he's in the doghouse, I think. It's the only thing that makes sense. Returning to ringside, we get replays of what just happened, only this time with a different camera angle showing Vince's disgust at the situation. Goldust raining down from the rafters signals that it's time to move along, but first, just briefly, Ryan, what did you think of this teaser that the Ultimate Warrior is in the doghouse?
I was kind of interested as to why he was in the doghouse. I wasn't interested enough to look it up, but I figured maybe Joe would inform us if it was anything important.
Yeah, we have some news on that, and I thought it was pretty funny that they did this, that they advertised that the Warrior is in the doghouse.
I'm glad to hear we have an update.
Yeah, excellent. I look forward to that.
I liked that when you said Vince was in disgust at what just happened, he's talking about Mankind. He said, it's obvious his parents were not Ozzy and Harriet.
Well, gentlemen, prepare to get mild. We're going to our final match of the night. Goldust with Marlena defeats Mark Marrow with Sable by pinfall in 12 minutes and 22 seconds. Commentary has been dropping hints all night that there was some kind of altercation between Marlena and Sable. Here was one of the first times that I can think of teasing a cat fight situation or teasing some kind of, I don't know.
Lesbian action?
Yeah, I started having like flashbacks of bra and panty matches and the shit show that was, I guess, the women's division for the late 90s. And then Goldust was here coming out first, Marlena looking amazing as usual with him. We find out that Stone Cold Steve Austin, busted lip and all, is going to be on commentary with us for this match. And we also get the news that for some fucking reason, Austin will be taking on Marrow at the International Incident pay-per-view. I loved Austin saying that Marrow is the biggest joke in wrestling. And then I really loved that camera shot of Marlena practically blowing that cigar while she was smoking it. Of course, Marrow has to get in the ring first and lead Sable around for us all.
Are you sure he was doing the leading?
He was displaying her. That's exactly what that was. That's what he has to do to keep his job.
Show the goods!
Austin calling Vince McMahon son was very deja vu. Very just, I don't know, I had a whole bunch of flashbacks on that one too. Up in the ring, Goldust and the Mild Man started off by literally rolling around on the ropes in some kind of weird tie-up. And I had a feeling at the start that this was going to be another match like the previous one, where commentary is going to be more interesting than the match in the ring. Marrow got in his routine 3 arm drags, so there's that. It was nice to hear Sable cheering for Mark. I know that sounds like, basic Valet 101, but there's been a little bit of a learning curve for old Sable here. But it sounds like she's starting to get, like what a valet should be doing and how they should be sounding and appearing and all that.
Come on, Mark. Win the match.
My God, that camera view of Marlena tonguing the cigar again made me think of your Christmas present, Joe. I almost wish I hadn't have let that go now. I loved Austin saying, the ratings are up because I'm sitting next to you, son. Good stuff there, pal. After a commercial break for the Attitude Adjustment Tour, we come back to Marrow rallying to no effect. Then Marrow standing up with Goldust on Marrow's shoulders was honestly impressive. Goldust has to have at least 30 pounds on Marrow, and Marrow just, what would you call that, Ryan? That technique, is that like a deadlift? Going from like crouch to full standing with something on your shoulders like that?
Or a squat, maybe, if it's on your shoulders.
Still, like I said, impressive. Goldust is definitely bigger than Marrow in every way. Marrow's power slam reversal on Goldust wasn't bad either. And then when both competitors were down, Marlena came over to where Sable was. And while both wrestlers got up and did some poorly timed spots, Marlena just kind of crowded Sable, with Sable trying to ignore her. And Marlena did give off like a almost a creepy vibe here that was entirely within the gimmick for her and Goldust, or at least I felt it was within their gimmick, the way she was kind of, I don't know, being dramatic about it, but also being just kind of fucking creepy in a girl kind of way.
Well, she was looking Sable up and down.
Yeah. Yeah, very predatory, but also very, I don't know, like I said, just girlish at the same time, I guess. And then when Marlena blew smoke in the face of Sable, that apparently was distracting enough for Mark Marrow to drop his guard, allowing Goldust to take advantage with a kick to the back, setting up the curtain call, the pin, and the 3 counts. Next week on Raw, the British Bulldog and Vader will be tag teaming against the Godwins. The Ultimate Warrior will be taking on Owen Hart. And then we fade to black. Joe, please get us started on our final match and the way that Raw ended tonight.
Well, I thought this match was pretty boring, actually, pretty mild.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of distractions too, to be fair. Steve Austin on commentary, I was distracted a little bit by that because he was getting pretty mouthy with Vince, like you mentioned. It was also ironic to hear Stone Cold Steve Austin making fun of Jake Roberts' drinking problem, knowing that what Austin is going to be doing in the future. I really like the Marlena character because she's this really hot chick that comes down to the ring with Goldust, but she's also kind of weird, just like him. Mm-hmm. And also, when she's at ringside, she's calm, cool, and collected, doesn't run around and scream or slam her hands on the mat and say, "Let's go, Mark." And then she starts being really creepy, like you said, eyeing up Sable. So it's really a good compliment to the Goldust character. But Jerry Lawler, again, was annoying the hell out of me during this match because he kept talking about Marlena and Sable having this altercation and then kept saying, "Here comes Marlena, here she comes, and she's not. Like, she was just fucking standing there in the corner, like by the ring post. Like, he really got on my nerves this episode. But, I mean, this is obviously building into something. We don't know what yet.
I kind of agree that it was kind of boring for a good part of the match. Commentary was good. I thought Stone Cold did a good job on commentary. I especially enjoyed him talking about Jake the Snake, not necessarily the drinking part, but again, just speaking the truth about Jake. He says that Jake used to be a great wrestler, but he's not anymore and that he's washed up. And I couldn't agree more. It's like he is just completely narrating what is actually wrong with Jake the Snake here.
Yeah.
All he had to say was, get that piece of crap out of my ring again.
Yeah.
But the match, I mean, there's a reason that we've coined him the mild man because he just doesn't do anything exciting. The portions of the match where Goldust is in control, we do get some decent looking stuff, but for the most part, just a very forgettable match outside of Marlena. Between her and the commentary, that was the only thing that this match really had going on for it. Us trying to build some type of a story between these two ladies, these two valets, is more interesting than to see where any story with Mark Marrow's going. The one highlight I will point out is at the very end, we don't get to see Goldust's finisher, the curtain call, all that often. And it's really impressive. I think it is just a really good-looking finisher.
Yeah.
I was happy to see that, but outside of that, a very forgettable match.
Yeah, not a whole lot to add on here. Very mild match. Joe, you had mentioned about Jerry Lawler and the way that he was trying to tee up the whole Marlena Sable thing, and it kind of reminded me of Puppies later on. Like the first time it was funny, but the 3 billion fucking times after that, it almost wasn't. But, as I said, our episode is over, so let's take it on over now to highlights and lowlights. 1, 2, 3. Ryan, please, why don't you go first?
Well, Bartlett, you're going to love this because my highlight is the Marty Jannetty Shawn Michaels match. I mean, it was just simply the best match that we had tonight. There's really no way to put it. I thought it started off a little bit shaky, but all in all, I thought it made for an entertaining match. My low light, I had a couple things to pick from, but ultimately I settled on the dumpster on his way out. He really just brings down any great wrestler that he's up against because we have been having nothing but highs out of Mankind. And then he got put in the ring with Duke, and it was just a lackluster piece of trash, just like Duke.
Jesus. Not only do you hit him with the jobber of the week on his final night, but you throw him in the fucking garbage in your low light on the way out the door. Criminy.
Oh, man. Wow. Well, my highlight is Marty Jannetty. I think he's just the greatest. No, seriously, my highlight is Vince McMahon's commentary during this whole entire episode. I loved it. He's in rare form the whole episode, especially Sonny getting slopped.
Oh.
And my low light is I'm with you, Ryan. Duke the Dumpster, good riddance, goodbye. Very happy to hear that this was his last match that we're going to see. Maybe that should be our highlight, but I'm going to make it my low light.
Get the fuck out.
Mine are both going to stick to a theme here again this week, and that theme is commentary. My highlight was that at some points, quite a few, Joe, as you've mentioned, commentary was really good and on point throughout so many aspects of this episode of Raw during a lot of the matches, to the point of commentary carrying the matches to an extent. And there is my low light, that these matches that we had, in my opinion, were boring enough to allow commentary to be more entertaining than what was going on in the ring. All right, so I'm looking forward to this now, Joe. What kind of contemporary wrestling news from on and around July 1st, 1996 do you have for us?
Yeah, there's some good stuff this week. I'll start off with something that I know you'll love, Bartlett. Dave Meltzer gave the Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty match 3.25 stars.
Oh, boy.
He seemed to enjoy it. He didn't really have any extra comments, but...
We want more Marty.
Yeah. More Marty and Mr. 500. Well, guys, the relationship between the WWF and Warrior Man has fallen apart. I know that is shocking. Jim Hellwig has missed several shows. Additionally, Hellwig's father, who he has been estranged from since the age of 3, has passed away. So there's some personal things there with Jim Hellwig. He has not appeared for any of his scheduled dates since June 25th. So that's been about a week, right?
Yeah.
We may see him in some recorded stuff, but it appears as though we've seen the end of the Warrior Man.
What, we're going to get probably one more match out of him, right?
Bartlett, you mentioned him and Owen, right? So
is that the match where he gives the ultimatum to the WWF? I remember hearing a story about his final match, and I thought it was a pay-per-view where he is refusing to show up.
Oh, that was that was 92 or what that was before.
That was before this?
I think it was, yeah.
See, I wouldn't have thought Vince would have brought him back after that, but wow.
But the comic book.
Right, right.
Can't ignore those sales.
Speaking of that, Meltzer mentions that a McMahon-Hellwig breakup this time around is even nastier, since they will need to work out the deals with the gym and the comic book. But, you know, something interesting here, we mentioned Sid earlier. So because of the Warrior leaving or not showing up, Bret Hart was called and wanted for emergency duty, but he declined. A call was then made to Sid, and he accepted. So Sid is basically the replacement for Warrior Man, and that's why he's back. Guys, we just talked about the July 1st, 1996 episode of Raw. On July 7th, I believe, is when the Bash at the Beach event will take place, where Hulk Hogan will turn heel. I just wanted to mention that Dave Meltzer is already saying that he has a feeling that it will be Hulk Hogan that will be the third man that WCW keeps teasing. And it's because he has an observer reader that worked on a movie set with Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper. So I just thought that was interesting that he has sources on fucking
that
movie
deep.
sets. Yeah.
Like a cockroach.
Yes. Speaking of cockroaches, Skip and Sonny are officially engaged.
Wait, what?
Oh, man. Why, Skip? Why?
It's the word on the street.
Oh.
That poor son of a bitch.
Speaking of poor sons of bitches, there was a house show in Louisville recently in which several wrestlers struggled with flight delays. So listen to what these poor souls in Louisville had to watch. They had to watch Aldo Montoya versus Duke Drossie for 45 minutes.
Oh, my God.
In order
Holy
to
shit.
stall for the other wrestlers to get to the venue.
Wow. I mean, I left out in my Jobber of the Week section that leading up to his ultimate loss to, what was TJ Hooker, or what the hell?
TL Hopper.
TL Hopper.
Yeah, TL Hopper. He did have some house shows where he jobbed out to Aldo Montoya.
Oh, my God.
Jeez.
10 minutes into that, I'd have been saying, honey, go warm up the car.
Yeah, 45 minutes. I don't want to end our show on that note, so a couple of good things. Ron Simmons is expected to debut soon as Sunny's singles star that she was teasing. And Bret Hart will wrestle on the South Africa tour that WWF is taking in September. So hopefully we'll see him before then, but he will be on that tour in September. And that is all.
All right. Thank you, Joseph. Illuminating as always. And that's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. And if you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW. Just add @gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know how much cooler they would be if they became Rawheads like you and me. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on July 8th, 1996, with matches featuring Justin Hawk Bradshaw, the Godwins, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.